Irish, as you said, this controversial piece of legislation was voted through Parliament today. And remember, it was voted through because of Georgian Dream MPs. They're the ruling party, they're the elected leadership of this country. And there were no Georgian Dream supporters storming Parliament today. So what happens next? The President gets an opportunity to veto this legislation in the coming 2 weeks. That will happen, but that will be overruled by Georgian Dream. So the big questions now are, how will the international community, how will the EU and the US respond to this? How will Georgian Dream process this in terms of an election coming in October? And crucially, how will Georgian society process this incredibly dramatic day?
One draped in the EU flag, another in Georgia's, trying to breach what this generation see as their Iron Curtain. If there is a soundtrack to today, and however history judges its significance, it is this. Inside Parliament, MPs for the ruling party had just voted through the Foreign Agent Bill, seen as a lurch to Putin-style authoritarianism and Russia, and away from the West.
About our government, because they don't care about us, they just care about Russia and their law, and I'm so angry. I just want to cry and ask people to help us. We really need to help, really, okay?
Inside, MPs from the ruling party here are voting on this Foreign Agents Bill. Outside here, they see that as this country pivoting in the direction of Russia. Demonstrators have breached the outside fence. They've come right up to the entrance. They're climbing over it. They're literally storming the gates of the Parliament.
When they finally did break the fence, a moment of, now what do we do? With the vote through, opposition politicians, the EU, asking themselves the same question. There wasn't much time to ponder that question. Police poured out of the building. Several arrests were made. Those demanding entry now dragged in, kicking and screaming. Earlier in the day, as MPs arrived to vote, so did protesters in their thousands. The students at over 30 universities had called a strike so as to be here. And for them, this law equals legislative pages from Putin's playbook that could jeopardize EU membership and strangle dissent. So march up the hill they did, because for them, it's the one that Georgian democracy lives or dies on. And just before the hearing and vote, a message from opposition MPs on the Parliament balcony.
Georgia will become member of European Union and NATO, and Georgian people will never surrender. These Jews will bring Georgia to the European Union, and we will secure our brilliant future.
As the hearing started, the relative calm outside. Not so in Parliament itself, the now near compulsory bust-up with Georgian MPs turning on each other. At 3:52 today, the Foreign Agents Bill was voted through its final parliamentary stage, and as word filtered through, the demonstrators surged forward. Things finally settled down this afternoon. The ruling party, Georgian Dream, assessed what this means for them in elections in October. The United States is talking sanctions. And the demonstrators, set down on the ground, wiped away pepper gas tears.
Well, joining me now from Tbilisi is Ia Mermishvili, who's a Georgian journalist. What are the protesters saying now that Parliament has voted this law through and looks set to pursue it until it becomes law?
Hi, and thanks for having me on. The protesters, I can sense the anger. And this anger has been sort of accumulating over the days. Everybody was anticipating and expecting that the law would be adopted today. And they were also waiting to hear what the high-level official from the United States, Jim O'Brien, would have to say to the Georgian people. So all these factors combined together, there's a tension in the air. The demonstrators are now moving from one location to another, and they probably will stay up all night again, much like previous nights.
So these protests are continuing right now. I mean, we can see it looks fairly calm behind you, but is there where do you think this goes? Does it become a bigger confrontation between the people and the authorities as this progresses? Because there are still weeks to go before this actually could become law.
That's absolutely correct. But the countdown really has started today with this vote. So now the bill will be sent to the president, and she has 2 weeks to sit on the bill, and she promised that she would veto it. And the expectation is that she will sit on it for the full duration that she has. After that, she will return it back to the parliament, and the Georgian Dream has stated multiple times that they will overcome the veto. And after that, now there is a month-long period during which the law will go into effect. After that, there are all these time frames that they have. It's about mid-September, where everybody that the law would require to register as a foreign agent would have to register. And most people I've spoken with in Georgia are refusing to do so. So we will see some sort of sanctions, some sort of actions from the government side, whether be it seizing the property, closing down the offices of the NGOs, and possibly media, independent media as well. So then the country will have about 6 weeks from that point on until the elections to sort of figure out how to get to the elections in a way that it's free and fair.
I mean, why, when America, the European Union, the United Kingdom are all voicing their concern about this, is the government, which understands that the people want to join the European Union, going ahead with this? What's motivating them?
So about 80% of the Georgian population wants to join the EU, and a lesser percent NATO, but EU has incredible support in Georgia. So there is a sort of clash between the society, or the biggest part of the society, and the government here. EU and the US have expressed a number of grave concerns, and sometimes people even say that, we're tired of hearing about how gravely you're concerned about Georgia. Please do something meaningful and something tangible. So the US, the State Department has made over 10 statements throughout this month. EU, European countries, I saw the announcement by your government as well today, saying that they are very concerned about what's happening, and that the law does not allow Georgia to become the part of the European community. So there are a couple leverages that both the EU, European countries, as well as the United States have. Everybody here is asking for sanctions, and anytime you ask somebody, so how do we come out of this situation, the response is sanctions, sanctions, sanctions. So they're talking about travel sanctions, and Georgia now has the visa-free or liberal. Georgia received the visa liberalization from the EU. So some of the opposition is demanding, most of them actually are demanding from the EU to stop or pause this process. From the United States, the situation is different. There is no visa liberation with the US. However, the US has already sanctioned 4 Georgian judges last year, and people are asking to expand the list of the sanctioned individuals who would be prevented to travel to the United States, and to apply those sanctions to their family members as well. And some of these deputies and some of the high officials have their children in the United States going to schools or working or whatever. So they want the family members to feel the pain as well. And they are also talking about financial sanctions against government officials, as well as Mr. Bidina Ivanishvili, who we have not spoken about yet, but he's sort of he's the person in charge in the country. And sometimes they say that it's one country, one person's basically little company that he runs, but it's not a company, it's a country.
Iyar Momishvili, thank you very much indeed. And it's very loud there. You've done very well to keep going and keep thinking clearly through all that music and crowd noise. Thank you very much.